let's get into what your riffs are. Do you know your riffs? Well, Mark, what are you talking about? What are your riffs? Riffs are topics that you love to talk about, things that you could just roll off your tongue, easily talk about for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even an hour. Riffs are those things that you can default to that inspire people and teach them something about you. But think about this with the end in mind. What are the things that can help you stand out when you're talking to these attorneys in personal injury? What are some topics you can discuss that get their ears to perk up and really lean in and go, wow, I want to hear what this guy has to say. So what are the headlines, topics of your riffs? And you can really put these riffs into 3 different buckets, right? You can have a professional bucket. You can have a personal bucket, this bucket of your clinical excellence in personal injury. And you can riff on topics in each one of those buckets. So here's a riff who's a client of mine. He always goes to this. This is his personal riff, okay? This is what gets attorneys to really dig in and remember this guy. He's the chiropractor for Live Nation. Live Nation is a concert promoting company. They put on concerts at all the big arenas and stadiums across the country. Well, they contracted him to be the chiropractor for Live Nation. So when Beyonce comes to town, Justin Bieber comes to town, Linkin Park, Kiss, Def Leppard, Lady Gaga, they call the doctor and say, hey, Beyonce is coming in town for 3 concerts this weekend. Can you be here? She wants to get adjusted, and a few of the dancers on her staff want to see a chiropractor this weekend. He says, absolutely. So he shows up and he tells these stories about, I was backstage with, Rihanna, or backstage with Beyonce. I got to stay at the side of the stage and hear some things that happened. When Justin Bieber came to town the next day, I got to bring my daughter to his hotel and she got to meet Justin Bieber and tell these stories. So these attorneys hear this riff of this chiropractor and they remember him. He's the chiropractor for all the concerts in town. I mean, he told a story where Chester Bennington of Linkin Park was literally in the fetal position on the floor the day of the concert that he had that night. And this chiropractor was carrying him room to room, just getting him prepared and stretching him, adjusting him, working on his muscles, and just getting him able to perform that night. And it's a really incredible story. So that riff that he could talk about for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, attorneys remember that, and he is the Live Nation chiropractor. They remember that. So that's in his personal bucket. So for a professional bucket, can you riff on your expertise in diagnosing? For instance, maybe, listen, and by the way, if you're at these meetings and you're just listing off a laundry list, we do muscle stem, ultrasound, we have x-ray, we have heat, we have ice, we have mechanical traction. Lots of chiropractors have that. Those aren't riffs. Those are everybody's riffs. What are your unique riffs that you can talk about from a professional standpoint now? So in this professional bucket, maybe you have skills such as, Mr. Attorney, I know how to diagnose better than most of the chiropractors in this city. I can diagnose things like ligamentous instability, concussion protocol. We had a client came in, he was in a car accident, banged their head on the side of the window. And because I'm certified in TBI protocol, we were able to diagnose that he had a concussion through these series of tests that we use. We were able to show them the research about what can happen if this isn't treated properly. It can lead to long-term disability. Same with our ability to diagnose ligamentous instability. Ligamentous instability left untreated could cause long-term disability of your client, Mr. Attorney, and left untreated. So in other words, I just validated my care. Now the adjuster has to address that. And if you address that with the adjuster, they're going to get your bill paid. So we have diagnoses that are value drivers for your case, because we want you to get max limits so that we can get our bill paid and so that your client can get money for pain and suffering in their pocket. Okay, so we can help you, Mr. Attorney, by giving you those value drivers with our diagnosing skills, because we can diagnose concussions, ligament laxity or ligamentous instability in the cervical and lumbar spine. That's a clinical excellence bucket. That Live Nation, that's a professional bucket, okay? Now I'll give you an example of a personal bucket. So for me, these attorneys remember me because, okay, I'm in Atlanta. And I've always practiced in the South, Birmingham, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia. Well, I have a son who played youth hockey, ice hockey. since he was 5 years old. Ice hockey in the South? What? Tell me more. Yeah, man, I started taking him to Thrashers games. They're the NHL team here in Atlanta. He fell in love with it. He's like, Daddy, I want to do that. So I gave him skating lessons. I signed him up for hockey lessons, and he got really good at it. And he made this elite travel team. We were traveling to Nashville, Huntsville, Palm Beach, Tampa, Charlotte, Boston, Chicago, Buffalo, Las Vegas, California, Texas, all over the country for hockey, because this elite team in Atlanta was kicking everybody's butt in the South. So we needed to play good teams. Not only that, his team got invited to 3 national championships. As a 14-year-old, he won the national championship. Team out of Atlanta. The second time, canceled for COVID, so they didn't get to go. Third time, he came in second at nationals, right? These attorneys eat that up. I became the chiropractor, the hockey dad chiropractor. In Atlanta, I'm like one of the only hockey dad chiropractors. So that was my riff, personally. They love talking about hockey. There are enough people in Atlanta that play hockey? I said, actually, no. Atlanta is a very transient city. Nobody in Atlanta is from Atlanta. So he had people on his team, kids on his team from New Jersey, New York, Chicago, Boston, Slovakia, Russia, and the Ukraine, all on this team of Atlanta kids who got to travel all over this country and played high-level hockey. My son even played junior hockey one year. So that was my riff. I could riff on my son's hockey career and all these experiences that we had. And that made me stand out as the chiropractor who's the hockey dad of this elite level youth hockey player. So what are your riffs? What are those things you can talk about that make you stand out personally? What's a personal story that's really cool that you could share with these guys that make you stand out? Professionally, what are some things you do as a doctor or a chiropractor? Maybe you're the chiropractor for the local professional rugby team in your town. Maybe you're the orthopedic surgeon for NFL team or the NHL team in your town. Or for your local high school team, like what are your riffs personally or professionally that you can share with these attorneys that make you stand out? As far as clinical excellence, and again, don't read off the laundry list of services. Everybody can do that. It doesn't take a genius to read a list of services and modalities. What are the benefits of those services and modalities? And more importantly, how do they benefit the attorney? Do they increase the value of the case with these skills? That's what attorneys want to know. How can you stand out? Know your riffs. What can you riff on like a jazz musician from those 3 buckets? From your personal life, from your professional life, and from a clinical excellence standpoint. Know your riffs, stand out to these attorneys, you'll get a lot of personal injury cases.